1 Samuel 1 through 3. This book, like the books to come of Kings and Chronicles, was originally one book. 1 and 2 Samuel together were one book, but they're divided simply because of size into what we call 1 and 2 Samuel. There is a natural division between the two. King Saul will die at the end of 1 Samuel, and David will become king at the beginning of 2 Samuel. It's interesting, though, that these books are named Samuel, because you'd think Saul or David would have first billing, but it is Samuel that gets the title of the book. Who is Samuel? He is the last judge, really, of the book of Judges, if you want to think of it that way. And many scholars do understand him to be. In fact, he's called a judge at one point in 1 Samuel. But he's also then this, what we would call a kingmaker. He anoints both Saul and David to their posts as king. We know that in the story, if we go back all the way to Abraham, God had promised him in Genesis 17:6 the words, "A king or kings shall come from you." So the idea of a monarchy, now again, we're moving from the tribalism of Israel's, the stage of the judges. We're moving from that tribalism into a monarchy. And it seems that God's intention always was to turn the family of Abraham into an actual nation with a king. The cities I've listed here are in central Israel, along that central ridge route. The reason I put them here is because they do come into play in our opening story in 1 Samuel. It's also pretty much the extent of Samuel's adult life and the ministry that he has. And these cities are rather close together. It's less than 20 miles from Ramah, Samuel's parents' hometown, to Shiloh, where Samuel grows up as a boy. So it's not a large area, and Samuel will, in the stories to come, have kind of a circuit that he rides or moves through in his role as a prophet. Well, let's get to our story in 1 Samuel 1 through 3. An otherwise unknown couple, and again, how many times have we said that? It just proves again that God loves to use average people. Elkanah and Hannah. Elkanah is a Levite living in the Ephraimite town of Ramah, and his wife Hannah is barren. She prays earnestly to the Lord that she would have a child. At one point, she's up in Shiloh, as they were commonly doing every year, going up to the tabernacle. The high priest Eli misinterpreted her intensity for drunkenness, and it just goes to show again that she was very desirous of having a child. Well, God gives her a child. She weans the child back home in Ramah, but then when the child's a little older, she brings him up to the tabernacle and she dedicates him. Remember that phrase or the term Nazirite. It seems to be just a general way of saying, or the term that would encapture the idea of being totally dedicated to the service of a deity. And in this case, Samuel is now dedicated totally to the service of Yahweh at the tabernacle. The story, of course, is when he's young. In chapter 3, he hears the sound, Samuel, of someone calling him. He thinks it's Eli, and Eli finally says, "I think it's the Lord." And so it is. And the Lord tells him in so many ways. Two things that come from this opening vision that Samuel has is, number one, Eli's family, his sons specifically, have transgressed and even blasphemed Yahweh. And so the promise of him having his family, Eli's family, being in the service of Yahweh was coming to an end. And secondly, that Samuel would become a prophet and would be able to speak the words of Yahweh then to the nation in times to come. And really that just kicks us off into the rest of the book, because at the end of 1 Samuel 3 it says that none of Samuel's words fell to the ground from here on out, which is again a interesting way of saying that whatever Samuel said when it came to speaking for Yahweh, it came true. A couple of things in conclusion. There is a passage, in fact I want to read it. It's in chapter 2 verse 30. It says this, and he's speaking, God is, about what happened to the sons of Eli, and in context of that blasphemy that they had committed. God said, "Those who honor me I will honor, and those who despise me shall be treated with contempt." In modern thinking, we often wonder, are we promised eternal security, is a term we use, or if I become a believer, can I ever lose my salvation? That kind of question, of course, is packed with theological discussion. I find that a phrase that we just read there in 2:30 is indicative of how God treats anyone in terms of salvation throughout the Bible. And again, think in terms of practical meaning. Like a marriage, when you commit to someone, what you're doing is saying, we're not promising perfection, but we are promising loyalty. And that loyalty can be done. It's not impossible for someone to become loyal to a person even through the rest of their life. And so I think that what we have in the Bible is a presumed forfeiture that's always in the background of someone in their loyalty to Yahweh. The presumed ability to either keep their loyalty or forfeit that loyalty is always in the background. Again, it shouldn't be a fearful thing, just like a good marriage. You're not wondering whether you're loyal or will be loyal, either you or your spouse. And I think the same way for how believers in the Bible, as we've again seen this happen from Abraham onwards, we don't need to be fearful of whether we will lose our loyalty. At the same time, we're living with this understanding that God will, as we just heard in chapter 2, verse 30, those who honor him, he will honor. The other thing that is so true about this storyline, again, is that the word of Yahweh, and watch for this in the life of Samuel, that there will be more than ever before. And I was just looking ahead in chapters 4 and on as we watch the man Samuel in the book of 1 Samuel, the idea of him speaking not just words of prophecy, this will happen or whatever. No, it's here is what Yahweh's will is for us as a nation. That will be his call to the nation, is speaking clearly, carefully, propositionally, and very decisively for Yahweh.